And that's really where my religious life started. I always had a pretty strong faith ever since I've been little. I always went to church, youth ministry, stuff like that. And that kind of transcended into a real satisfaction for my life. And kind of contentment. So, no matter what really happened, I was always really happy, and I always kind of felt like, even through the bad, like God's always kind of there. He's got my back. So, it was all good. And then, so for a long time, things were really, really good. I was really happy, but then I started to grow up, and high school came. And with high school came all these kinds of different types of questions. I started questioning things, like what happens to, why do bad things happen to good people? Or why do all my friends and all my teachers say that, my God is false? Things like this. And these questions just kind of kept building and building and building. And I started to get really, really confused. And this confusion itself, it just kept growing and growing in me to the point that, I really started to feel almost abandoned. I felt like there was nothing left there. And it was really a point where I really started turning away from my faith. And so that was really hard for me, like I felt kind of like this this foundation, this rock that I had just kind of slipped away under me, and I didn't know what to do. So now, all throughout my childhood, I was really close to God and stuff, but I always had kind of thought that He was there to help me with my life and to help, I had my journey, and God was going to kind of be there to help me when I fell and to kind of help me do what I wanted to do. And so now that God was kind of out of it, I kind of felt like, okay, well, God's not around me anymore, but I can still have my plan. I can still, have my vision for my future, my will, my way. And so I started to kind of invest in myself, and I started to do everything I could to kind of make my future as good as it could, to make my life as, as awesome as I thought it could be. And for a while, it really started to work. By the end of this year, I had tons of friends, a girlfriend, I was on all the sports teams, I was getting awesome marks in school, I was volunteering, I was even elected as president of my school. And I was miserable. And again, I didn't really understand. And I remember sometimes, laying awake at night and just kind of feeling so empty and feeling like, all these things that I'd worked so hard for, I had done better than my wildest dreams, and I felt so unsatisfied, and there was a longing for something, and I wanted my old life back, I wanted my old faith back, but there was still all this confusion, these questions, and I still had no trust, and I didn't know what to do. So then Lead came this weekend. And I must say, through 4 Steubenvilles, I've seen some pretty incredible stuff, but the way Jesus worked at that, in that time, and the way He really transformed our lives was like nothing I've ever seen. And I guess for me, the thing that really stuck out was when we kind of started talking about how God has His own vision for our lives. He has a will, and it's up to us to kind of go down that path that He wants for us. And so, I started praying, God, let me open up my heart to You. Let me start to do what You want for me. And I kept praying, and I kept praying. And then Thursday night we had adoration. It was our last night together. And so, I was praying, God, let me open my heart. Let me follow You. Let me trust You. And after a while, I kind of realized that everyone had left the chapel. I was just sitting there by myself. And I was actually about to get up and leave to go join everyone, but something just kind of held me back. And I didn't really know what it was at first, because, I didn't have a ton of emotion. Kind of what some of the speakers have been saying to you guys. I didn't have a ton of feeling at that point. It was just kind of this calmness. But I just kind of had an awareness, almost for the first time in a long time, that God was with me. And at that moment, I was kind of I think I can start to rebuild my relationship with Him. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I still have a lot of trust issues, My brain still tries to, question the experiences I have with God. Is this real, or is it just me hoping that it's real? But I know now in my heart that there's something out there. And I know that at the very least, I found a starting point to rebuild that relationship. Kind of that first building block towards a bridge of trust to Christ. And now what's left is to finish building that bridge. And so I challenge you guys, as I'm going to challenge myself, to never cease seeking out a relationship with Christ. We come to these conferences, and it's so easy to kind of get swept up in the emotional hype, the conference high. And it's so easy to experience Christ when you're surrounded by nothing but His love and His grace. But it's so hard to continue that relationship in the midst of the chaos of your lives. when it's hectic and you have other commitments, when you're confused and you don't know the way, when you're broken and it feels like nothing's left to put you back together. But it's when we feel most hopeless that we need hope the most. And so listen to my words when I tell you that the path will not be easy and it will not be short. But if you keep battling for the love you found this weekend, if you embark on that journey to Christ, you will find what you're looking for. If you keep searching, and if I keep searching, I know we will find God's grace. And so thanks, guys. But I would ask you not to clap, but just spend a few moments in silence to really think about what I've said and let it impact you. Because this is really a message that I've been missing for the last few years.